What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Joe, the Juggernaut Joyce. As we know, Joe Joyce has took his first L in his professional career. And shout out to Lamar. I just read his message, and he asked me to do a video on Joe Joyce and defense. And we all know that's what Joe Joyce is going to need. He's going to need defense, throughout his career, especially with a rematch with Zhilei Zhang, with his ability to counter Joe Joyce, okay? Well, then the question was that Lamar asked, would the cross guard be a good defense for Joe Joyce? Well, ideally, you would think, yeah. But then you have to take this into account. Joe Joyce is a slow fighter. Will it help him? Yes. But understand he's fighting a southpaw, so it's coming from a different stance. It's coming from a different angle. So when you have the cross guard and someone is, your jab depends on how fast you can get that back. Okay, for an orthodox fighter, like, for example, we had Dillian Whyte and Jermaine Franklin. Jermaine Franklin wasn't able to get his counter off because of where that guard was. Okay, so the positioning of that guard is important. And the ability for Joe Joyce, since he throws a lot of shots. See, Joe throws a lot of shots, man, and a lot of times that leaves him open, and he could be, because he's tall enough and he's long enough for it to be successful. But he has to reposition it, and he has to remember where his foot placing is when he's using that cross guard against the southpaw. Because Zhilei Zhang is still, especially when a person was successful at doing it the first time, he's still going to be hell-bent on shooting that left hand. In fact, these last few weeks, he's fell in love with his left hand, saying that, hey, I can hit everyone with it. I can beat the shit out of anyone. So he's having a lot of faith in his left hand these days. So when that jab is coming, he's still looking for the counter, and the counter's still there. Now the cross guard, from depending on where Joe Joyce decides to plant his feet, if he's thinking that far ahead, which he should, that's how that should be. Now the question would be, another question, who the hell is going to teach him that? Can Ismael Salas do that? Or will he have to go with somebody like Buddy McGirt? Because Buddy McGirt taught Dillian Whyte that. And despite whatever anyone says about Dillian Whyte was winning that fight pretty easy, except when he decided to go into exchanges like he's known to do. And that's when he got caught and hurt. And then, you know what I mean? See, Jermaine Franklin's a tough, rugged kid. He ain't going down. The struggle is resistance, because he's used to surviving. Resistance is survival, and he's accustomed to that. So Jermaine Franklin, he could take those shots from Dillian Whyte. But Dillian Whyte was very successful with that cross guard. The only problem with Zhang, though, in a rematch, is the fact that Zhang is going to be looking for that left hand, and he has to get that punch back to protect himself. So it's a difficult thing for Joe Joyce, but an orthodox fighter, I would go for it because it helps him. I think, besides a cross guard, what you also could apply to the defense of Joe Joyce is like the shell, the George Foreman, the Ken Norton, right? And like those guys. Archie Moore used it, so a lot of fighters were successful at that. The only thing is, that's when I think when someone decides to open up with combinations, that's not a good defensive countering technique. That's just protecting shots, And, someone like Joe Joyce could do that. He could use that. But then someone like Joe Joyce is known to engage. And I don't think that would be popular for him. So I don't know if it would be comfortable. And see, understand, Joe Joyce has been fighting a certain way for so long. You know, it's interesting to see how he will adjust, what he decides to do. But the cross guard, yeah, I think it would be better than the shit he was doing. Definitely, because he was coming forward, like head up, straight up, coming forward, thinking that he was just going to break this big dude, his size, down. Matter of fact, he wasn't even his size. Okay, if there are certain, if the 200s were like the hundreds, that would be a totally different weight class. What do I mean by that? Okay, well, you got 147 and then you got 160. Then you got 175. 175 is light heavyweight. You know, 140 is junior welter. So those are two different weight classes. But when it gets in the twos, everything over 215 pounds or over 205 is a heavyweight. So, you know, yeah, that's a big gap. So, yeah, he was just dealing with a bigger guy, okay? And trying to do that with a bigger guy, he should have learned to chisel at this guy, to use boxing to try to open him up with shots, you know. But understand, Zhilei Zhang is a lot tougher than people really gave him credit for. You know, that's why because Hrgovic was the one that has, and the only person to this day that has a victory over Zhilei Zhang, regardless of how controversial it was. So, you know, but yeah, would the cross guard help Joe Joyce in the future? Sure, it will. But will it necessarily help with Zhilei Zhang? That's the question. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Joe Joyce and his possible defense adjustments for the future. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!